Dessert. Welcome back to another episode of Searching for MacGuffin with your hosts,
George
and Gabe, and this is GG's with George and Gabe. That's not the name of the show.
Oh, okay.
It could be maybe. We'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
who knows? Spin-off.
Talk about it.
We'll spin off. We'll do our own show, and then just producer Nick and producer Dan will produce Empty Rooms.
No, it'll just be we have this show and then we have the other show where we do this exact same thing.
Oh, but like with another title.
Just another title, and we talk about the same things, same time, more time constraints actually, since we have to produce two shows now. So
90-second videos. We'll just. What was the time limit on Vine?
That's true. 6 seconds.
Okay, we'll just do 7-second shows. That's
perfect.
Good.
Always got to
right.
one up them. It's true because you can never do things alone. So I'm glad I have you, and I think following suit with that, what we talked about last week. Talk to us about what we're doing today.
Welcome to the new episode as we continue our discussion on the man, the myth, the legend. Why do I keep saying that? Batman. It's no man is an island, and neither is Bruce Wayne, who seems to adopt about 15 kids throughout the course of his life, right? Today's topic is the Bat Fam. Batman is a bit of a loner, right? You know, he doesn't work well with others. He doesn't play well with others, but yet he has a soft spot for your kids whose parents are dead for the most part. I wonder why that is.
I can tell you. I can take you through like 3 different iterations of his origin story if you want.
Are there 3 different? What are the different iterations of Batman's origin story?
The opening credit scene of Batman vs Superman.
Okay, which
right?
is
that is Batman vs Superman, right?
Where what a gunman shoots his parents.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan is his dad.
Oh, that's just what the iteration is. It's just that it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah, that's what I
mean, his origin doesn't really change a ton, right? He's just gunned down by his parents. Sometimes we know who it was.
He's
it was
watching
Joe Chill.
Zorro. He was watching Zorro,
he could be,
right?
That's right. He could be watching Zorro. He could be watching Deflator Mouse at the opera. I think those are the only 2 options we have. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember.
There has to be another one.
Yeah, it's either the movie theater or the opera.
Oh, like for what he's watching. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's either Deflator Mouse or
whatever.
Zorro.
Whatever.
Or they don't have the rights to that and they don't show us.
Whatever happens in Gotham.
Yeah. And then. What else about the details? Oh, either we never know who it was, or it was Joe Chill, and if there was somebody behind
the Joker.
Joe Chill, that's true, or the Joker. I forget. You know, when I grew up, I thought that the Joker killed Bam. Like I was sure. Like I said, my introduction was Batman '89. I thought that was canon. Then little did I find out that we don't really know who killed Batman's parents. Then little did I find out that I read some book that said it was this guy named Joe Chill. And I was like, what? Since when? Then I started to understand that these things change over time. That even in the original works, with every crisis that DC reboots the continuity, they can change the details. So like Jonathan Kent's dead or Jonathan Kent's alive. Who knows nowadays, right? So even within their own continuity, these details change, which speaks to the ability to adapt and change these characters over time, right?
Yeah, but it could also represent how memories get murky.
That's true, because it's really hard to keep track, right? Of
exactly.
All these
it's
things.
like, oh, it could have been this guy, but I'm not really sure. It could have been this guy.
Yeah, and that's why it's like an amalgamation, right, of these different iterations. But we're not here to talk about Batman. We did that for almost 40 minutes already. We're here to talk about his family. Because of his orphan background, he tends to attract these orphan children. Who was Robin to you growing up?
That's easy, John Blake.
That's not. You didn't even know who John Blake was when
I don't know John was his name.
Yeah, you're like, I think it's.
Who is Robin to me?
Yeah, who's your Robin?
¿Cómo se llama este? Why am I forgetting his name? Oh, my Robin was Teen Titans Robin.
Oh, okay. So, well, which Robin is that, actually?
That is... Give me the names.
So they are... I know the answer to this. They are actually super inconspicuous, if that's the word. They dance around it. They don't really reveal who it is, but eventually the series drops
who it
these
is.
hints. It's Dick Grayson. Dick
It's
Grayson
Dick.
is
That's
the
okay.
Robin.
That's I'm thinking. It's not Tim Drake. I was thinking the other, literally all the other names, and it's Dick Grayson.
Yeah,
Dick
but
Grayson
it
is
takes
my
a
Robin.
really it takes a really long time for them to confirm that on the show because he's never outside of the Robin costume. Like he's not Dick ever until I think the Slade arc, where they have to like address which Robin this is, and it is Dick.
But I remember that Robin, like Teen Titans, was, you know, I don't think it's as good as Justice League, but like that was my next, you know, that was my next big thing.
It was in the sense that like, you know, that Justice League is like elevated material, but if you're a kid, this show's for you. Like it's a kid's show, you know?
Yeah.
So for you, it's as good because it's like you relate to it more.
Exactly. And I remember playing the games on the Cartoon Network website. There's like a little arcade, like fighter game that they had. I remember buying a Robin. I had a Robin toy.
Yeah.
I had several Teen Titan toys.
That I played with.
Yeah, and like, that was my Robin. And what I liked about Teen Titans is that they gave him an identity outside of Batman, because obviously you're always gonna hear Batman and Robin. Robin's always the sidekick. Robin's always the helper, the kid that needs to get saved, or, you know, the helping hand. He is the epitome of the sidekick, you know?
Yeah, that's how I was introduced in like Batman the Animated Series. Sometimes he's around, sometimes he's not even around.
Exactly. And that's something that I really liked about Teen Titans, that they gave, like, he had the identity outside of that, and
he had agency.
Exactly. And he led his team.
It's like Robin's no Batman, right? But if you're under the tutelage of Batman, bro, you're probably better than most people. So clearly, leadership qualities are something that Dick has.
Which obviously, goes into his transformation as Nightwing, and, you know.
Yeah.
And I think once you get out of that, you know, kid persona or whatever, like, I don't really know what the difference, I guess, in age or when he makes that jump, but it's like Nightwing is a badass, like, on all fronts, on all counts. Like,
he's such a great character too. Like, that could have gone horribly wrong, you know, transitioning to like his own identity, especially derivative of Batman, but it's so both unique and also harkening back to his past as Robin and his tutelage under Batman. It's just a great design.
It's like you can see what shaped this character, how he began, and the direction that he wants to take. And it's like he wants to do, like, be his own. Like, this thing, he's moving outside of the shadow of being the sidekick.
Yeah,
he's his own man. He is his own character. He's his own hero.
Yeah,
in a way.
Talk about a murky history. I was introduced to Dick as both Robin and as Nightwing, because I'm an 80s kid in the sense that, like, I was born in 84. So I'm being exposed to this thing at like 5, 6 years old, you know, and I'm looking back at the 80s stuff. But I'm also living, you know, as a 90s kid, the media that's being produced then. So Batman the Animated Series is Robin, right? But now I'm getting into the comic books, and like Robin's already Nightwing. He has been for years. And I'm getting into the Titans book, and he's the leader as Nightwing. So this character has like this duality that I'm growing up with him with two separate identities simultaneously. And to be honest with you, the Robin that comes after him, Jason Todd, he's famous mostly for his most iconic story, which is his death, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm
not even really sure if I've read any Jason. I'm not even sure if I know anything about Jason up until the point that he dies, right?
Yeah.
You've read Death.
Death in the Family?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, I guess what is cemented is, like I said, my Robin will always be Dick Grayson, to the point where, like, the other Robins, I think, are great characters and stuff like that. But I feel like in my mind, I treat them more as sidekicks.
Right. Well, justice for Tim Drake, because I do think that Jason Todd, and the best thing they ever did was create the Red Hood for that character.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But for me, in the 90s, Tim Drake was Robin. So even though I was looking back, I was also being introduced to the new comics, and Tim also gets introduced in the New Adventures of Batman, the last season of Batman the animated series or volume, because the chronology of that series is like crazy. It's like 100 episodes and then like 30 or whatever. But in volume 4, when the animation changes and it matches Superman the animated series, they introduced Tim, and his origin is great there. And I love him because he takes that, and since he's so much younger, it's true what you say that he's more like a sidekick. He gets less play on his own, but then he's my underdog because DC, and I won't go into it because, like I said, we're not super well versed into the comic book iterations or connected to what they've done the last couple of decades or even two, but they have really underserved that character because Tim is awesome. Tim is a great character. He's his own man. He's nothing like Dick. He's smart enough to figure out who Batman is on his own. And that's how he ends up being Robin. And also, he breaks, I don't want to say cliches, but the tropes of the orphan sidekick, because Jason was just a Dick Grayson pastiche, right? He's just redoing the same thing his family, is that. But Tim has a family until they eventually kill them later on. But Tim has a family, and he's such a different take on Robin, and it's one that doesn't get explored enough because it means telling a new story. And sometimes I think we're afraid to tell new stories because everybody knows that Robin's parents were killed just like Batman. He was either... And it's even funny because in Batman the Animated Series, they give some of Jason's origin elements to Tim. I believe he's like a criminal. He has a connection with Two-Face, right? So, but I think that's refreshing, and I think that they've put him on the back burner a lot of times. Tim is in the Arkham games, which we talked about last week. You play in, I think it's City, definitely at City. You fight alongside him, and he's like jacked. He looks like the Chris O'Donnell. I don't know. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I was very disturbed at first. I was like, why is this Tim? But you know what? I'm down with it. He's Chris O'Donnell. That's fine.
Is that Tim? Is that character supposed to be Tim?
That character is supposed to be Tim because Nightwing's in the game as Nightwing.
No. And the Chris O'Donnell.
No, Chris O'Donnell's supposed to be Dick Grayson, which made no sense because he's like a grown man. Yeah. I think that if I'm not mistaken, Batman even adopts Chris O'Donnell. Like, I think he doesn't adopt him, but like Robin becomes his ward, that's kind of what that means, right? Yeah. And it makes no sense because like he's a grown man. But yeah, Chris O'Donnell's Grayson. But even then, there's like some Timisms there, and then they take some of those and put them to Tim when they interpret him for the Arkham. Long story short, I love Tim. He's underserved. He's not as great as Dick, but also hasn't had that chance to grow. And also, DC was very quick to kick him to the curb and replace him with Damian without really giving him any agency. It was time to tell the Dick becomes Nightwing story for Tim, and they kind of turned him into Red Robin, and they've played around with his character so much, and he's just like another Robin. There's like 15 Robins, but we know that Damian, the biological son of Batman, he's the Robin now, up to what I've seen. He's starting to be adapted into media, animated films, and things of that nature. What are your thoughts on Damian?
I mean, honestly, I'll be honest. Like, I don't think I have like a lot of... Like, I know the character exists, but I'm trying to remember if there's a specific story that I'm necessarily familiar. I know that he's been in some of the new shows, right? Or some of the new projects that they have.
Yeah, he's been in some of the new projects. The only one I saw was Son of Batman, which could have been a great film, but it was, in my opinion, not a great film. Like, honestly, a terrible film. It's
him and Talia's son?
Yes, it's him and Talia's son, yeah. In the comic books, in Grant Morrison's Son of the Demon, I believe that. It's in his Batman, the main title Batman run. I believe it's called Son of the Demon. That's when Grant Morrison writes the story of basically Talia drugs Bruce, and they have a passionate night, and then she like biologically engineers because she's so vain that she won't carry the child. Yeah. That sounds like, Talia is not a good person. Yeah. Yeah. But so you haven't read this, the Grant Morrison's Batman?
Poor Batman. I don't think I have, no.
Oh, you should check that out. That is a good... Now, see, you will immediately buy Damian They also did this thing where Grant Morrison killed him. So, and then DC brought him back to life. So comics are crazy, man.
Using the Ra's al Ghul thing?
Lazarus, yeah, the Lazarus
Lazarus
pit,
pit?
yeah, which was very controversial. At least to me, it was, because I was like, Batman would never use the Lazarus pit.
That gets a little murky. But, I mean,
Yeah,
good.
it is his kid. Yeah, I don't know. People do strange things. But yeah, so Damian's kind of like the new Robin. I'm guessing, unless they've created a new one that I'm not aware of. But what do you think about the concept of Batman having a biological son?
I gotta read to see that character, but the concept in itself, I am not necessarily, I guess, too fond of it.
Okay, that's fair.
I think there's a certain thing that speaks to me, I think, about the character that he chooses to adopt or take people under his wing, taking children that have been through, I mean, aside from Tim, through traumatic events, traumatic past that's so similar to him, and I can see like why that would be, like a soft spot for him, and I think that adds, I think, more nuance in a way, but also having your own child, because I don't know if there's like something in a psyche where it's like, if I have kids, are they gonna go through the same thing I did if I get killed or whatever?
Yeah,
and like robbing the child of their parent way too soon, and then putting the kid through something that he went through, which I don't know. I think, like you said, what's the point and where are we trying to get to, and how they execute the story. I can buy into that, but I think I mean, listening to it first, it's kind of like,
yeah, I rubbed against the idea at first too, but then I think when you actually read the story, at least that initial Grant Morrison run, and I also think he comes back to do this title, which I think is Batman and Robin, where he revisits the character. When Morrison is writing him, I think it's perfect. I think it's his brainchild, and I think he does a really good job selling the concept, because it's almost like an adoption too, because Damian's already grown up, Batman had no idea he existed, and he's almost taking him away from like his abusive family. Like, this child does not deserve to be raised.
He's like Will Smith in Bad Boys for Life, or whichever Bad Boys that one was.
No, I think it was Ride or Die.
Ride or Die, that's the one. Bad Boys for Life is the last one.
Yeah, dude. No, it's the other way around. So I guess you meant For Life.
Whatever the third one is.
The third one is called For. You got to remember it this way, because I'm eternally upset about it. The third one is called For Life. And I knew that they would make a fourth one, and I was immediately upset. Then they made a fourth one, and they called it.
Yeah, that makes no sense. That makes no sense.
Yeah, they couldn't have held that title for the fourth one.
Which just also, For Life makes more sense with the concept of the fourth film.
Yeah, and like, by the time you get to the fourth one, you might not make another one. So it's a nice bookend.
Yeah. Well, we're getting 2 more of those movies, so
that's real? I won't watch them.
I know we're getting another one, so.
Yeah. Public service announcement. Besides Batman, if you haven't seen Ride or Die, Bad Boys, Ride or Die, do not do it. If you have,
just YouTube Reggie scene Bad Boys, Ride or Die.
Okay.
It's the best part of the movie.
No, the best part of the movie is the after credit scene. No spoilers. Okay, so
wait, did you even tell me what it was, because you were so appalled?
No,
right?
No, you need to watch it. Yeah, just go to the end of the film. It's on Netflix.
Guess we're watching it again, baby.
You have to watch the whole movie all over again. You mentioned John Blake. Actually, for anyone who doesn't know, John Blake is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Right, that's the name of the movie.
Yeah,
and he inherits the mantle of Batman. At least that's what I understood. What are your thoughts?
He's John Robin Blake.
Yeah, he's John Robin Blake. I thought that was a little on the nose, but
it was a little too on the nose.
Yeah.
Like, he could have had like a call sign called him Robin or something. I don't know. His middle name is Robin.
I think his real name should have been Richard. And he doesn't go by it because he doesn't like people call him Dick.
Richard makes sense.
Yeah. Richard Grayson Blake.
Yeah, so he's Batman. He's not Robin. He's Batman.
Yeah, right?
He becomes Batman.
He's like the Robin for that movie, but he's literally just like a police officer. He will
Honestly,
be.
You could have called that guy Terry. I would
Yeah,
have bought it.
you could have. Mm-hmm.
I would have bought it.
Yeah. So how do you feel, by the way, about ending the Dark Knight saga with this like promise of another Batman that we'll never see?
I don't care. Batman survived. That's all I cared about.
Okay. All right.
He had his little happy ending. I mean, it's poised to someday they'll follow up on this, right?
You think so? I didn't
No,
feel
no.
that way.
I felt like, they're ending this chapter, and that could be it. They could come back. I don't think it would be the right move at all. I don't think Christopher Nolan would do that now. But I'm a kid. Obviously I want more. You know, I'm always gonna want more. But I think as I got older, I understood. I was like, I think it's fine where it is.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned Terry. Definite Batman Beyond vibes.
Yeah.
How do you feel? What are your thoughts on the concept of Batman Beyond?
As like a project coming up, or like a project just what it is.
Well, okay. So what does Batman Beyond mean to you? What does it represent to you?
Man, you have a Batman Beyond movie DVD. I think is what it is. Is
The Return of Joker?
The Return of Joker.
Yeah, that film.
And that like cover will always, that's just a random anecdote, but that's like, that covers will always like stay in my head. And one of the like the DVD cases that like has like the little clasp, and you like unclasp it and open it.
Yep.
That's just
I'm visualizing it right now while you're saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love Batman, bro. Batman Beyond was so cool, man. Like we were just like with animated Batman stuff, just because the animated series and Justice League are just perfect, you know?
Yeah.
They're just so good. And it's like, can there be another Batman? Can there be someone that does it just as well? But I think the way that they did it with Terry and with an old Bruce Wayne, I think was fantastic. I loved it. I love the show. You hated it upon hearing about it, or?
Yes. Like when the concept was pitched, and I'll say even as far as like the pilot, like when I watched the first episode, Batman's old. This other kid is Batman. He doesn't even act like Batman. He's basically Spider-Man Batman. This sucks.
So he's
but
amazing.
Yeah. But little did I know of the webs that would, ironically, the webs of tales that would be weaved throughout the next couple of years on that series, culminating with that Return of the Joker movie, which Batman Beyond the Return of the Joker might be one of the best Batman movies of all time. That and Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
I will put those two animated films on the same level as The Batman, Batman 89, The Dark Knight. They are excellent. And that was the journey that Bruce Timm took us on with that series, Batman Beyond. The next generation of Batman. And it's like what I said about Tim. Not afraid to tell a new story, a different story, completely different. It's not the Batman you expect, but the one that I think we needed at that time. And maybe that we need again.
I think that, for sure. I think that, like you said, you like just going into the deeper point, like what's the point of this? Why are we doing this? How do you execute it? Is this a new take, but still hold true to the character of Batman? And obviously, when somebody new is taking on such an iconic role, there's always going to be comparison. There's always going to be, you're not him, you know? And I struggle with that a lot, you know, with the new Captain America movie coming out. I look at Anthony Mackie and I'm like, you're not him. Harrison Ford says it to him in the movie, and I agree. You're not him. And it's just, I got to get over that hump. But I think when you execute it properly, like we've seen in Batman Beyond, it's something different, and you are able to like separate them, you know. Yeah. It's kind of like a passing of the torch. This isn't Bruce Wayne. It's not Bruce Wayne Batman. This is Terry McGinnis. He has his own legend to make. It's the same thing with Peter and Miles. It's Peter will always be my Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I guess on that front, when I heard about Miles Morales being a character, being a new Spider-Man, you're right. I was apprehensive. I was very like, he's not Peter. Bro, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Bruce Wayne
Yeah,
is
there's
Batman.
no other Spider-Man.
There is,
When the thesis that counters that is actually anybody can be Spider-Man. And
exactly.
it just shifts my perspective.
Yeah, because you realize, I'm just being a hater and gatekeeping. Because at the end of the day, it's like, what matters is, yes, we love these characters, as individuals, but also we also love them for what they stand for, the
Yeah.
symbolism that they carry, And
Yeah.
I think Batman does that incredibly. Like, he stands for something, and he is a symbol. And whether it's for hope. I mean, we're used to Superman, but I think that's the difference. The part that I like about the new stuff coming out, or it's like, a symbol to, like, fight for what's right and not crossing that line, And so going back to, like, the Miles and Peter thing, I didn't think that was gonna be a good idea. I was like, nah, man, get out. I was like, oh, he's Hispanic, maybe, but by the end of it, you're just like, man, there can be two Spider-Men. They do coexist, and if, like, Miles is Spider-Man,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Miles is Spider-Man as much as Peter is Spider-Man, and I think with Terry is Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Terry is his own version of Batman, and he doesn't try to be Bruce Wayne's Batman.
Yeah. You mentioned like
Mhm.
gatekeeping, the idea, and I do agree with you. We have to be weary of that. But also on the other side, we're marketed a lot of stuff, and sometimes they miss the mark. So it's easy to be hesitant, trepidatious about new ideas like this, but to be open-minded and see where those avenues for new storytelling. One thing that connects us to new opportunities for storytelling is, I think, a connection to the next generation. Why does Batman hang out with all these kids? And we talked about some of his adopted sons, the Robins. There's others like Stephanie Brown and Carrie Kelly who play either short or Elseworld roles like Robin, or even other side characters like the Batgirls, right? You got Barbara, you have Cassandra, et cetera, et cetera. We could go on because there's a lot of kids around. But at the end of the day, I think that keeping company with these kids, so to speak, it kind of keeps them young. You mentioned having those Teen Titan toys and that cartoon, and I would have never watched, played, or interacted with that interpretation of these characters if I didn't have you in my life. Because you were my nephew and you were significantly younger, you had these things. Even then, like, I was like too cool. I was too old for a show like Teen Titans until I had to sit there and actually watch it. And I was like, you know what? This is actually really good because I already had my thing. And without a window into that next generation, what the expectations for a television show from you at that time and from the generation now, if we don't look to our youth to kind of see what their needs, what their desires, and what their expectations are, we won't understand the world as it is changing. It doesn't mean that we're constantly giving in our values or traditions, our beliefs, or even just our preferences, but to just kind of have an open mind because times change, and sometimes there is a new Batman. Sometimes there is a new Spider-Man, right? Sometimes perspectives shift, and we got to kind of align ourselves and even just check, why is it that we connect to these ideas in the way that we do?
I completely agree, and I think you just saying that it's true because it's like I'm growing up and I'm just always. I mean, I'm young, but I consider myself young. Like, I'm still hip in a sense. But then I talk to like producer Nick
cool.
and the younger and just the younger the people that are in the spot that I was in a couple of years ago, and I'm like, oh, this isn't cool anymore, and I'm sounding like an old person. Oh, this isn't cool anymore. This isn't. I'm using words like hip, like I'm an old person. Like, and it's just, you're right. Like, they have to cater to the times that are changing, but also never be afraid to be something different, to be something new, to be something refreshing. And that's what I think is the point. It's just keeping that essence of what this character stands for, what this character is, and taking and doing your own take, having a new twist to it is what keeps us going, keeps this character, you know, vibrant, and just keeps you on your toes with this character and makes you want to watch what's happening next. You know,
It's
like
it's easy to lose sight why we do this, right? And sometimes we look at Batman as a figure that wants to create a better world, but a better world for what? Like a legacy for the next generation.
Exactly.
Because Batman is a man. It's one of the main things that we said last week was drawn to us. He's finite, he's limited, and as amazing and like unbelievable as he is, we know that at the end of the day, he will have an ending. And that's why I think stories about Batman's end are fascinating, because we know that at the end of the day, he's a man. So what does he leave behind? What's that legacy? And he has the next generation to pass the baton or the eskrima sticks or the bow staff to, right?
Exactly. It's like, I'm thinking about it. Why is it so appealing? It's like Superman, Martian Manhunter, they're Flash. They have these supernatural abilities. They have these supernatural powers where I'm like, they'll make it. In a cosmic conflict and all these things, they'll make it. I have to worry about a gunshot with Batman. I have to worry about disease. I have to worry about, like, there is such a vulnerability to Batman that doesn't really extend to a lot of the other big characters.
Yeah.
And I think there's something.
And his relationship with these kids is a vulnerability, right?
Exactly. And just him being open, even though he went through what he went through with his parents, the suffering that he went through. And, you know, going back to that lone wolf persona, I do this myself, but he's opening the avenues where he's like, oh, like, you think about it, like, why would you let a child, or why would you let a kid, or why would you let a younger person, you know, into this world of the dangers? But it's like, he has full faith and trust in them that he can equip them with the tools necessary, which is like when he loses one of the Robins, that's so devastating, you know? But it doesn't mean he doesn't, you know, try again.
Yeah. I go through it in my life. I can't imagine what it's like for a parent to go through that, because I'm not one, you know. But as a teacher, I go through that, and I'm not Batman, right? But sometimes you equip them and you let them, you know, either succeed or fail, and it's heartbreaking, right, when those shortcomings too. But sometimes you push them to take those risks for themselves, and you think, well, can they do it? Like, this is so, and I see it in their lives, like whether it be sports or whether it be on the stage performing or their academics, you know, can they reach this level? Sometimes when you place that bar, if you equip them or you show them how, you know, they'll meet that bar and they'll, you know, go over it. Sometimes they won't, like Jason, right? But you have to be willing to pass it along to the next generation, right? You have to be able to let them create their own legacy. And you drew that parallel between Spider-Man and Batman. It's interesting. Growing up, you look at Peter when he's young, right? And you're like, look, he's a kid. He can do it too. And you believe, I can do it. Then Peter grows up and he's an adult, and I'm sick of Peter constantly be reinterpreted as a 16-year-old boy. Like, I want to see what the adult Peter's like. But now this generation has Miles to fill that void of where the young Peter, you know, once filled.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Robins, one for each generation that passes, fills that void where Batman is this unobtainable goal that we strive for, but Robin is a more realistic reflection of who the young readers are. And I think that's the Batman and Robin relationship is what bridges that gap between generations, to remind all the BA guys that are striving to be Batman that you need to pull up the Robins in your life in order to really find fulfillment and meaning, and the Robins to look for that Dark Knight to kind of help them on their journey.
Beautiful.
So I guess that's where we'll stop tonight, and we'll see you again. We'll see you again next week as we continue to explore the Rogues Gallery, because with all great friends come great foes.
Ooh.